FIRE. Financial independence. Retire early. A few months ago, I blogged about FIRE. More specifically, I blogged about Lean F.I.R.E. I said that some people would retire early once their passive income is able to cover their basic necessities in life, leaving very little or no room for error. I cautioned against Lean F.I.R.E. as I thought it was pretty shaky. Of course, regular long-time readers know that I like having buffers partly because I am mental but mostly because I think having a crisis mentality is not a bad thing. I used an example of how I got pretty worried during the COVID-19 pandemic when both interest income and dividend income took a hit. If I did not have sufficient buffers, I would probably have had to look for a job. It would have been very difficult in a very challenging environment. It would probably also have been very difficult because I was much older and have been out of the workforce for many years. Why am I blogging about this now? The catalyst for this blog was something I read this morning. A FIRE movement pioneer who retired early 10 years ago at age 34 now says he must return to work. Why? He cannot afford his children's college education now. I always say that kids are very expensive to bring up in Singapore. An estimate which I did almost 20 years ago showed me that it would cost some $250,000 per child from birth to graduation day at a local university. I am sure that the figure is much higher today. It is so important to think ahead when we plan for FIRE or anything in life, really. Think what could go wrong and what happens if we should have an accident or a few along the way. Maybe, we planned to have 2 children but got lucky and were blessed with triplets or quadruplets. It sounds a bit amusing when I say this and we might laugh at it, but it could throw a spanner in the works, especially if we are on Lean F.I.R.E. After being retired for 10 years, it would probably be a challenge to return to the workforce. Our skills or knowledge might have become obsolete, or our old position might no longer exist. Structural unemployment is very real. Even if we are not obsolete, we would probably have to compete with younger and probably more energetic people for the same job. They would probably be able to settle for lower salaries too. Costs are rising and people on Lean F.I.R.E. might be able to cope if they rise slowly, but if they should rise rapidly like what has happened in the last 1 year, it could become difficult or even impossible. I would avoid the various forms of FIRE which are along the line of Lean F.I.R.E. I don't like to live life with little or no room for error. This is why people who follow the "you only live once" movement, believing that they should live life to the fullest, can ill afford mistakes. Things do go wrong like they sometimes do. I always demand a greater margin of safety for peace of mind. What about you? Reader responds. A timely reminder to all out there who set a lower bar for themselves when it comes to FIRE. To be honest, most FIRE models that work on even the traditional 4% withdrawal rate are vulnerable. Any unanticipated event can throw a spanner into the works and upset expected outcomes. As long as you can downsize your workload and you don't mind doing some job, if you can tolerate it, better to not quit until you are confident that the savings you created are robust. My personal view is that some part of the portfolio should be in growth. Total returns with a reasonable mix of dividend and growth shares to start, followed by a gradual shift towards dividend investing with safety, and fixed income plus rental income from property is ideal to withstand shocks. Of course, this demands discipline and conviction. It will be hard work and a long slog, but FIRE strategies need to be robust and reasonably shock-proof. This is where a fund for 12 to 24 months emergency expenses, property rentals etc. come in. They cushion the impact of black swan events that disproportionately affect your equity allocation.